Mondays are sort of what's happened at the weekend type of day. I try and tidy up the training plans. If something's changed over the weekend, somebody might have had a bad race, or they've done some sort of training session that's not worked out as we'd expected, so I might have to make some small adjustments to those. And people who've got planned tests, or they've done some races or a race, then I look at that data and see what's happened, see whether it makes sense, and see whether we need to make any changes. So today I thought it'd be quite interesting to look at one runner. She did a hill climb, a 30-minute test. She's a mountain runner, trail runner. And that's quite interesting. It's got some interesting things in it. And then somebody else has just been away skiing. He's had 3 weeks skiing in the Alps. And then he came back and he decided to do a 60-minute effort at round about his threshold, and I think he got a bit of a surprise that he'd lost some fitness, but I suppose that's to be expected. He's only been back 2 days, and normally it takes a bit of time to get back into it. And then another cyclist did a 1 hour test. He's training for an indoor 1 hour hill climb on a thing called Kino Map, and he did his first trial over the weekend, so we'll have a look at that as well. So I hope you find that interesting. There's a lot to learn from it. It doesn't matter whether you're a runner or a cyclist. These types of tests and having a look at the data, it's all got power data with it, and heart rate and all that information. That's all really useful and interesting. So first of all, I thought it would be useful to start with what it should like if you do a 1 hour effort or a sustained effort at a constant power. So this guy's a cyclist, and he did a 1 hour effort, and unfortunately we've only got the data from the effort here. I mean, we have got data from his warm-up, but we don't know how long it took between the warm-up and the effort, and that's quite important. So in fact, even though it might seem a good idea to keep the harder effort or your interval session and your warm-up separate, it's actually pretty useful to have them all in the same file, because then you can look at the actual elapsed time between various events. And we can tell a lot from that by looking at the various screens in WKO5. So you can see here that he's done his effort. His heart rate's drifted up a bit throughout the effort. His power stayed fairly constant. There's not really a lot to say to that, apart from the fact that it's a really good effort, because the FTP's were around about 200 watts, 204 watts. And he did an hour whereby he averaged 204 watts. So an hour at your FTP is pretty good. It means your time to exhaustion is about an hour. So we'll move on to the next one. This is actually Claire. So Claire coaches a lot of trail runners, and she likes to use a 30-minute test, and she takes the anaerobic threshold heart rate from the second 20 minutes, or the last 20 minutes of the test. Here you can see the power drifts down during the effort, but the heart rate drifts up, so there's a bit of decoupling there, and it looks like she maybe set off a bit too fast. And there's another really good chart, or group of charts, a dashboard it's called, in WKO5, and that shows you how much time you spent above your anaerobic threshold, above your FTP. So this is running with power, and running power works pretty well. The most interesting thing about this is partly that she went off a bit too fast, but really that her warm-up was a bit too vigorous, and she didn't have enough time to recover before she started the effort. So you can see here, the purple line here, I might have shown this chart before in a video. The purple line shows the anaerobic capacity as you've got available at any time, called dynamic functional reserve capacity in WKO. And as you can see, as she does her warm-ups and doing some sprints, she's doing them probably a bit too fast, because she's using up this anaerobic capacity here. And it's like an interval session really, and she's not really recovering properly. So she didn't recover enough before. I think she had a false start. I was talking to her earlier today, but even if she hadn't had the false start, she didn't recover enough before she started this last, the false start, and then after that she didn't recover enough to before she started the interval training. So if you're doing a time trial like that, that's supposedly around about your anaerobic threshold, around about your FTP. So this can be whether you're doing a critical power test using run power, or an FTP test using bike power, or even if you're doing a pace test on the track to work out what your critical pace is, then make sure you have enough recovery between your warm-up and your and your actual efforts. But also, if you're not going to do an anaerobic effort, there's no need to do anaerobic efforts in your warm-up. You just need to spend some time round about your critical power, your anaerobic threshold pace, and that's enough of your warm-up. Really, you just want to get used to running or riding at that threshold pace, have a bit of a break, and then you're used to it, your body's ready for it, and then you do your effort. So don't do too much in the warm-up, don't overdo the warm-ups. You just you're not actually improving your chances, you're reducing your chances, as you can see from the chart here. And lastly, we've got this, he does some renown cycling, but this is a cycling trial. He's training for cycling, he's training for ultra endurance bikepacking events, and he's made some great improvements in fitness. He's been skiing for 3 weeks, as I said, and then he came back and he did something on Zwift called, I think, 60 minutes at 95%. So he, we made an estimate. WKO5 here makes an estimate of FTP, 250 watts, and he decided he would try this. So if we enlarge the chart, you can have a look at that heart rate, and you can see here that it doesn't really drift down, but normally if you do a good effort like that, it drifts up. You'd expect it to drift up throughout the effort, but it looks like he's having a bit of trouble in the middle here, and that is also this. It's not really clear, but you can see that his power is starting to drop a bit there as well. He's not too bad until he gets to that point, and then I think that's basically his limit. So it's like he's done a 30-minute test. That's his 30-minute power, and he's really hung on. In fact, he's hung on really well to get to the end of the workout and not let his heart rate drop too much. And his cadence has stayed fairly reasonable as well. But basically, he's not carried as much fitness as he thought, or as we thought from over the 3 weeks he's been away. And this is just a bit too much for him. But this will all come back really quickly, and to some extent, a fail like this, where you're unable to complete the session, is more useful than something where you actually get to the end of it and it seems like you've paced it perfectly, but you don't really know. Whereas we know here that that's what he can do for 30 minutes, and after that he's had it. So that's a really useful piece of information. It might be a little bit of a dent to his ego, but he's a pretty strong character, so I don't think that'll be a problem. If we have a quick look at this training impact chart that we were showing earlier with Claire's data, you can see it a bit more clearly that he's even starting off well above his FTP. So yeah, I mean, he's overcooked it anyway. He's been a bit over enthusiastic. But also you can see he did a warm-up effort here. He went quite anaerobic here, so there's no need to do that. You're not really gaining anything by going so hard in maybe your 1 minute effort. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, he did recover almost. His modelled FRC's 11.7 kilojoules, and he was up at 11.5 before he started the effort. So I mean, that didn't cause him any detriment in the effort. That's just that he was working a little bit harder than his fitness level. So hopefully they're useful pieces of information for you, a bit of data analysis, a bit of background into the sort of things I look for when people do an effort, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.